This is problem 135 from your trig packet. In this problem, it says use the identities to find the values of sine 2x and cosine 2x with the following condition. They give you tan x equals -2 and cosine x is less than 0. Well, what you should notice is these are both double angle formulas, right? 2x is obviously double the angle that x is. The first thing you want to do in order to figure out the sine 2x and cosine 2x is you want to figure out the other trig functions that correspond with the x angle. So we want to find sine x and cosine x. But in order to do that, we need to figure out which quadrant we are in. Well, if tangent is negative and cosine is negative, tangent is negative in quadrants 2 and 4, cosine is negative in quadrants 2 and 3. They obviously share quadrant 2, so this is a quadrant 2 triangle which we need. So let's draw that quadrant 2 triangle, label the angle x, and if tangent is -2, then this opposite side is going to have to be 2, because it's got to be positive because we're in a quadrant 2, and this adjacent side has got to be -1. Now if I want to find the hypotenuse, which I'll need to find sine x and cosine x, I'm going to use the Pythagorean Theorem. So that would be -1 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. I'm going to square root each side, so I'll end up with square root of, well, -1 squared would be 1 plus 4 equal to c. This is square root of 5 is equal to c. So we can fill that in as square root of 5. Now I need to find sine x, which I can do easily because that's the opposite over the hypotenuse. So I go to the opposite side, which is 2, over the hypotenuse, which is root 5, and that would be sine x. And I can find cosine x by doing the adjacent side, which is -1, over the hypotenuse, which is root 5. So now I have sine x and cosine x, and they're going to help me find sine 2x, which is double the angle, and cosine 2x, which is double that angle. First thing I'm going to do is go to the formula for, or the double angle formula for sine. And the double angle formula for sine is 2 sine x cosine x. So I can now substitute in sine x, which is 2 over root 5, and substitute in cosine x, which is -1 over root 5. And when I do that substitution, I can now multiply. This is 2 over 1. When I multiply the tops, I get -4. And when I multiply the bottoms, 1 times root 5 times root 5, well, that would be root 25, which is 5. So sine 2x is -4/5. Now we're going to find cosine 2x. And there are 3 formulas for cosine 2x. I'm going to use the middle formula, which would be 2 cosine squared x minus 1. I can now plug in cosine squared, which would just be cosine with this -1 over root 5 squared minus 1. I can now square this piece, which would be 2 times, this would be 1 over, if I square the root 5, I end up with 5 minus 1. So this will be 2/5 minus 1. I find a common denominator, I get 2/5 minus, this would be 5 over 5 when we find the common denominator. So I get -3/5. So then I can say that this is cosine 2x is equal to -3/5. And I found both of the double angle ratios for sine and for cosine.